Hey guys, welcome to Business Leadership Podcast. Today my guest is Kim Speed. What we've gone through with the pandemic, and branding and marketing is one of those items that has become so critical and so confusing for people to deal with it. Kim specializes in this area. She is the author of Branding on a Shoestring, and she's also owner of Purple Moon Creative Brand and Marketing Boutique, and she's been helping business leaders for many years to navigate to branding strategies or marketing strategies. Kim, I'm looking forward to our discussion. I'm looking forward to learning from you how to navigate this area.
Well, thank you for having me, Gurmeet. It's great to be here, and I'm excited to talk about branding. I love talking about it all the time.
It's good. So, where do you think we are, in terms of branding and marketing? Did people slow down during this pandemic, what we just gone through for last couple of years? Or are people, spend more time and energy? So where you see from your client what they're working on?
Well, you know what? This is a great time to continue to make sure that your brand is out there and people are aware of it. But it's also time to take a different look and a different approach. Mm-hmm. I think that there's a lot of people out there now that feel like brands don't understand them. And I was reading a report in Strategy magazine that a company did, and because of everything that everybody is going through right now, mm-hmm. Consumers feel like they're not heard and they're not understood, and they're feeling a lot of stress. So when you approach your brand and building brand awareness, it really needs to impact your consumer, your client, your customer, and what are they going through, and what are their problems, and how is your brand there to help them?
Mm-hmm. So did those problems, because a lot has changed during this pandemic, right? The way we run a business has changed. That way, did the lot change in the marketing side as well, or branding side? Because there were so many messages when it comes to health issues or people dealing with the social challenges or many other challenges, and sometimes branding messages kind of get mixed in those messages. So how did people approach, get over those messages and still, have that identity in a brand, and also still keep consistently building a brand with the consumers?
So, well, let's think about it this way. I want you to think and I want our viewers to understand that what a brand really is. And a brand is different than your branding. So let's make that clear. So your brand is who you are, what you stand for, how you are perceived by your prospects, your clients, and your consumers. And it's really your reputation. So mm-hmm. when you have a business, you automatically have a brand. And your brand can be one of your best assets, and it can help turn your loyal followers into your brand ambassadors, mm-hmm. if done properly. So during all of this, and that's why I brought up the whole, people feel like brands don't understand them, or they're not taking into account what they're going through. So one of the things is, and it's not going to be the same for every company, for every brand. So what I've been suggesting with my clients is to really take a look and do some research and talk to some clients and customers about what is going on and what they're thinking about, so that you can actually be addressing those things. And whether that's in your messaging, your marketing, your experiences you're providing, which are all part of the brand. So that it's not just about what you look like, it's what people are saying about you and how they feel about you. Do they feel like they are part of your world and they want to be part of your world?
Mm-hmm. So how do you get those messages across? Definitely, you need to communicate that to the people. What you could be doing, what align with your what are you delivering? You could be delivering amazing service or amazing products to your customers, but how do you get those messages across, right? So your staff know that what you're doing, but how do you get those messages across to your client? Definitely they know the product you deliver, service you deliver, but how do you get those messages in a way that they believe that this is what you're doing, and they can verify that, and they can have that kind of persona?
The best way that you can get these messages out is have your clients get them out there for you. Mm-hmm. if that is the ultimate, because that builds your credibility. So if there's people with businesses that they're on social media and maybe they have products and people are sharing that something that they got was really great, that is number one. If you can get testimonials from people, so anything that you can get that is word of mouth from somebody other than yourself saying it, that's number one. So if you can get that kind of messaging and get that out to people and share that with people through email, through social media, through interviews, articles, radio, anything. It doesn't really matter how you get it out there, but get in front of your audience with those kinds of messages. That's really key. That's going to help you build your brand reputation.
Okay. So let's talk about the large or small companies. The large company, they have resources, you can get all this stuff done. But a lot of business have changed during this COVID, right? A lot of new businesses open up, a lot of startup companies, especially in Ontario, and business changed quite a bit. So is that a long-term process? First of all, in terms of timeline, does it take long to build that the brand? And the second, how about the resources? How do a small business go about it, building it with the limited resources? A large business will have the resources, they can build it easily, but how did the small business do that so they can be relevant in the market?
Well, I would actually say sometimes it's the small businesses have an advantage because they don't have all these layers to go through. And they actually are human beings talking to human beings. And as a small business, you can get out there, you can actually have a conversation with the people that are your clients and consumers. Whereas a large corporation, they're the ones out there spending tons of money on, celebrity spokespeople or icons because they're trying to build that human to human contact. And right now, that is the most important thing. People want to feel that connection. And when you are a brand, if you're showing that you're connecting with people, that's going to put you heads above your competition.
So what you're saying is the human side of the brand is a lot more important than simply just getting a message across. So what is the story fits into that? Either personal story or brand story, you develop your story. What is a story builds into the brand, when you're communicating with the people? Is that part of being a human and connecting with the humans on their side?
Oh, completely. So when people talk about brand stories, it's, it's your struggle to success story. It's what you've been through and letting people know that there are similarities between yourself and your consumer, that you understand them. And the best way to do that is to explain through a story or examples. So those are the brand stories that you want to come across with. And those are going to make you more human. And even large companies can use that in their marketing as well.
So that's probably the difficult part to come up with the stories, because we work on a daily basis in a business. We're trying to grow businesses. People not spending time trying to develop their stories or even thinking through the stories. But especially when you have a lows in business, the struggles we go through, I think those are the stronger stories when you talk about your struggles. But that's a hard to visit. Nobody wants to visit the emotion when you were struggling in a business. How does business leaders go through that, and how do they come up with the story so that resonate with the people and it's a true story so they can get the message across?
Well, and that is such an interesting question, because everybody's got a story. And everybody's got something that is interesting, but a lot of times we think it's, that's not interesting. Nobody's going to want to know it. And that's why sometimes you really need to work with somebody that can hear, how you progressed, how you started, why did you start, what got you into this business, what drove you, how did you keep on going when it was a struggle, what did success look like after, what are you continuing to work on, that type of thing. When you actually tell somebody else and have a conversation, it's amazing. Like when I speak to my clients, like I peel back all these layers and I see the little gem inside, and they're going, oh, I didn't even realize that, because you've pushed it aside for so long.
especially when you struggle with something and you get over it. I had so many struggles in my business when I building. Even now, this day, I struggle a lot with many different areas because I'm not expert at it. But when you get over those struggles and then now you know how to get a handle on those, the failures that you don't want to go back and visit those failures. You find no value. You just keep moving forward on a daily basis, right? But I think that's where the best stories lies, in your struggles, when you how you got over it, and you can help somebody else to get over those struggles.
Well, think about the articles that are the most interesting for you when you're reading it, and even the headlines. It's like somebody that's having a struggle or somebody that's having some sort of pain. You want to read it and find out that everybody wants to hear the happy ending. They want to, but they want to see that there's been a journey that you've gone through, that it isn't like magic, and maybe they can then see themselves in that.
Oh, yeah, that's a difficult part to do. I think just visiting that emotion again and building those stories. So do you help out business leaders who are struggling with that area as well? Help them, understand what they've gone through and then document and then build stories around it, and so they can communicate?
That's exactly what part of my process is. I do work with companies and teams and pull out those stories and those, as I said, I call them those gems, the messages that people want to hear and need to hear, and the things that the company has forgotten about and or just takes for granted all the time. They've forgotten that, years back, that this is where they had started and they didn't want to tell people. I don't know about you, but when I was actually working in the corporate world, it was an interesting way of thinking, that you had to have everything buttoned down. You had to have your I's dotted, your T's crossed. You couldn't go out and show any problems, any issues, because you wanted to always look like you had everything under control. Well, now I feel like it's changed. It's changed because people want to see that you weren't perfect and that you had to fix it. And, there were challenges that you overcame, and inspire people and motivate people. And especially now, people are feeling like they are struggling and they need help, and they want to see that you've overcome things, and that's going to motivate them, and that's going to make them feel like they're connected with you.
Yeah, because if you talk about your success all the time, everybody's struggling, and you are struggling with that. But if you only focus on a stress, not many people can relate to that, because they're struggling as you've gone through that, right? So when you talk about your struggles, a lot of people can relate to you. They can connect with you because they're dealing with the similar struggles at their side, right? So it's easy to connect with the struggles than just a success, on other side.
Yeah, and sometimes it's taking little stories, at one time. So it doesn't have to be the whole. This is where I started when I was like, so poor and like sometimes it's little nuggets of stories, and just making them what I call Reader's Digest versions of, taking a little snippet out that people can consume fast. Because that's another thing, is people don't have time for the long epic stories all the time, and they want to get some answers quickly. So how do you make that short little story of, this was a struggle I had, and how I felt, and then this is what I did, and this is the outcome. But being human and chat and using conversation. I call it conversational marketing.
Yeah, effective short stories, so you can get the message across. So how does that work in a company environment, Kim? That owner have their own struggle, they gone through it, they can talk about their own struggle, but every person in the team, they gone through their struggles as well. They have their own stories. So how does that all relate to the brand story that what you're trying to tell as a brand or as a team, as a company, when you all have a small personal stories to tell, may not relate to the brand stories what you're trying to get across?
And that's where you have to circle back to, who is your ideal target audience? What are their struggles? And what do they want to hear about? So you're right, not everybody's story in the company, like we don't, it's not relevant. that might be relevant in the employee brand, and when you're trying to attract employees. But if you're looking at actually trying to build your clientele, or you're trying to sell more products, then you need to know who your ideal client is and who needs your product or service, and then relate those stories to them.
Back to them. I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you need to connect with their story, not. So I got it. So it has to be their client stories and connecting with you, not your staff story.
Yes. So you need to know both sides. And really key to know your ideal target audience. Who's your specific audience?
Mm-hmm. So where do people struggle in a business leader who are trying to build a brand, especially they've gone through that 2 years of pandemic, and then now they're trying to get back to building a brand. Where do they usually struggle? Where you see the biggest struggles or bigger mistakes are when they go on a journey of building these brands?
Forgetting about who the consumer is number one. But you know what? And we have to realize that how companies are human too, and share some of those feelings of, you know what, I'm struggling in this too, and I don't like how things are right now. So that's another way of bringing that human connection across, is you're allowed to feel crappy about this too. It doesn't, and it is affecting your business, and you understand what other people are feeling because you're feeling it too. So another way to pull it back to that human connection again. And your brand is something that evolves. So you're evolving through this situation.
Interesting. So just be vulnerable, just be open out there, just be real what you're going through, because I'm sure if you're going through it, other business also going through the same scenario, and you're just talking about it, probably easy to digest the content or understand or relate to that content, I guess, right?
Yeah. And then also there's also ways that a brand has a specific voice, how they want to be perceived. So some brands are going to be more humorous than other brands, and some brands are, I'm trying to think of descriptive words that we use for our clients, but some are much more professional, and they want to be very, exactly what you want type of thing, whereas other ones are a little more relaxed. You don't have to lose that tone when you talk to people. So you don't lose your personality, don't lose your character, don't lose your values, but be able to share your stories in those voices.
I see. So let's talk about personal branding. During this pandemic, I see a lot of emphasis on people talking about personal branding. There's so much emphasis on it. So where does a personal branding comes with a corporate branding? Is there still room for that? Is that still important? Where you see the business leaders or your clients, they focus on a personal branding, more than the business branding, or no? How do they approach it?
Oh, it's extremely important, and because that actually does help you to bring in that human element. There are people behind this corporate name, and I want you to see this is a team, and this is what we do. This is how we work. This is how we have fun. These are some of the things that we do in our company that we want to share with you. And then find out what you do, so you can start to have that conversation. But as a personal brand, as the owner of a company, and a lot of people are afraid to show up. But I tell you, the more people that actually show up, and if let's take this is a great example. Richard Branson versus Virgin. Who do you want to talk to? Who do you want to hear from? What articles are you going to read? The ones from Virgin or the ones from Richard Branson?
Definitely Richard Branson.
Yeah. So personal branding for a large corporation, if you can bring that human person out and show them and share and make them look, I'm a person, I'm friendly, and I want to get to know you too, then that's going to work really well for you.
Yeah, it's a struggle. What we're talking about is this personal branding as well, right? So we are having a discussion on a
Yes.
podcast as a part of it, and it can't tell you how many months I struggled with this. But by the time I started this, YouTube channel, it's a struggle because you have a focus on a business. There's so much going on in a business, and at the same time trying to find a time. And also, we're not trained that way. When we went to school, there was none of the personal branding, the video recording, all that stuff was not there. You have to polish your skills and get better at it. It takes time, it takes effort, and it takes over the time you get better at it, right? So it is a struggle, but I think your points were very well that you need to invest time into it. That is a big part of your business. That's your value. You bring it to your brand because personal brand, people relate to it, people connect to it.
Yeah. Well, and I like to look at this as the positive side of this is, although we've all had to get in front of a camera and it's very uncomfortable, especially there's a lot of times that I'm on camera not speaking to anybody. This is actually a pleasure talking to you for me because there's somebody reacting back. But there's a lot of times now that we're on camera and just talking to ourselves or looking at a screen. And the worst part is that we have to see ourselves all the time. It's like, then you get so critical, right? But if you can just sort of relax and get out there, think about the positive side is you actually are saving time and saving money, because before I used to have to go to conferences and trade shows and networking events to get that same sort of benefit that now I'm actually getting in this little box here.
Yeah. Well, communicating one-to-one before, was very hard. It's very time consuming. You can meet one person, you can communicate with them. But in this form, we can record that, podcast and send it to a lot of people. And, it's one-to-many. You communicating with a lot of people with a very short amount of time, and you connecting with a lot of people, right? I think that's the biggest advantage out of these podcasts or these discussions, that we can connect with a lot of people and you can deliver value to a lot of people as well, right? Because now you're connecting with them. Exactly.
And one of the things for personal branding is what I would say is show up. Stop hiding behind your work, behind your staff, and show up. Let people know that you're wanting to hear what they have to say. That you have something to say and that you're trying to help, and you want to know what problems, what issues that they have.
Yeah. A lot of business leaders, my colleagues, I've been telling them to, let's start a, YouTube channel, let's talk about it. They always hesitant. So I want to make sure that I send this segment to them so they can hear about this as well. Because they have been telling me they're going to start it, but they haven't started yet.
Well, it is. It's easy to say and harder to do. I did the same thing. I started a social media group, and for people that were transitioning, whether they lost their jobs or needed to find a different type of job. And the same thing, it was like, okay, I'm going to go on and offer, value. And all of a sudden it was like, oh my gosh, now it's really nerve-wracking. So I understand that. I get that. But the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And you do have to realize you don't have to be perfect. Yeah. Think about when you go to a networking event and you're meeting people. It's not like you're thinking exactly like, this is a script that I've got to say. Relax a little bit.
Yeah. Just be yourself, So,
yeah.
Interesting. So when you work with a business leader, Kim, who do you work with? Are you working with a marketing department, or are you working with the business leaders? What level do you get involved in a companies, and how do you help them out?
So my ideal and specific audience would be companies that are smaller, and I work with the owners, the founders, the partners directly. So I am more of the person that would come in and help them with the marketing that they need.
I see. So do they know the problem they're trying to solve before you get involved, or do you have to discover the problem with them, what they're up against, and help them to find where the problems are and then come up with the solutions?
A lot of times they know that they need to do something, but they don't know what they need to do. And some people come to me because it's more of a, businesses, we're struggling and we need to improve it. how can we get the word out? And then other people actually know that they need to work on their brand because they haven't. So that's usually the two sort of scenarios that I find.
So how long is that, commitment is with a client? How big is the commitment? Is it a couple of years long commitment by the time they build a brand, or is it a short term? How long, does it take for people to get the messages out and get some recognition?
Well, you can start doing things pretty quickly, but to work together, it usually takes a little while for people to go through the process of understanding what they should focus on, because we need to sort of figure out who they want to be and remember who they are and who, what are their goals and where are they trying to get to, and who do they need to support them so that they can build that business and get people. Because no matter what, you're going to need some sort of client or consumer. So you're going to need to know who you want to attract. So taking a little bit of time and figuring that out. So that takes a little bit of time, but not months and months. So we usually can get that going in a month, and then we can decide what are the best ways to get that out. And for everybody, it's different. So we customize that, and that depends on, how well known are you? Where are we starting from? Are we starting from scratch? Are we just enhancing things? What are budgets? What assets do you have to work with already? And so there's so many different things, but so I can help people figure that out. I can give them a plan, and sometimes their team can go away and work on it, and then I come back in and help them at different points, or I can bring a team along and do it for them.
I see. So any of that changed during this pandemic, either story, the way we get the message across in terms of communication or telling stories or technology we use? Any of the stuff changed during this pandemic, or is it still, as we were doing before that? Where you see the biggest impact on this from a COVID?
No, we're all online. So that has changed everything. So even people that didn't have an online presence are having an online presence. So actually making sure that you take responsibility of it and have a little bit of reputation management. If you do have a team, know what your team is putting online, and make sure that you're all in agreement that this is working for you and not against you. So yeah, it's a little bit of, all of a sudden the curtains have opened for everybody, and sometimes it's whether you want to or not. So you have to be prepared for that.
So get a handle on social media, especially on a LinkedIn profile, what your staff is putting out. Just make sure that the profiles align, at least in a business side, so they're communicating with the client.
Give them some guidance of what needs to be done, and so that they understand.
I see. So what happens when people going back to offices? It looks like we're going to finally open Ontario for businesses the next week sometime.
Yes. Yes.
There's a lot of stress. People going back to offices. A lot has changed during this pandemic. Any word of advice for these people? If they're going to build a brand again, they already have a stress level so high because they're going through a lot of changes. How do they approach some of those communication and a brand building and approach that and make it part of their business process going forward?
Yes, that is a great question, and this will help your brand. Is if you actually have a process, and you make sure that you communicate it both to your staff and to people that are going to be coming into your office, clients or your store, or your place of business, so that people are comfortable. How are you going to manage the safety of them, and what do you know, and what protocols are you putting in? That's really going to help people's comfort level at this point.
Yeah, because they've gone through so much during this pandemic, whether it's health issues or family challenges or social challenges. They've gone through so much, and now they coming back to offices is adding more stress to the plate, and how do you handle with some of the stress? If you can help them, at least give them information, deal with the branding side of things, at least makes it easy for them how to deal with the changes that you deployed.
Yes, exactly. So I would say too, like, making sure that what some of the best practices are from your government. Interestingly, I just had a meeting with some people in the West, and I guess they've kind of gone back a little bit earlier to offices. So when I was talking to them, there was only 2 people, but they were kind of sitting at opposite ends of the boardroom table. And it's just, some of those things are what we're going to need to do to be comfortable to actually be in an office together again. Or how many people are actually going to be there? Is there a capacity number? That type of thing. And making sure that you communicate that is actually what are things that are going to help you build your brand, in a sense that you're carrying, that you're professional, however you want to be perceived. Those are some of the things that you need to think about in returning from a pandemic.
So when you work with a business leader, Kim, do they just give you a keys, hey, listen, just run my marketing stuff, branding for me, or do they have somebody in a staff that you train that they can run it on a daily basis, a day-to-day stuff? How does that work? How does the process work?
So interesting that you say that. I always talk to people about their branding and their marketing, but especially their branding. It is not something you can just hand off to an agency. And if an agency says that they would come in and they'll take control and they'll make up your brand, run, because you know what? It can't be done. You are the brand. People need to extract from you so they can help you and they can support you and they can, build your brand together, but they can't build a brand for you.
I see.
But after you have the foundation and the understanding of who you are and what you want to be and who you want to serve, then people can do different things to help you support that. So I can then help people to give them, an internal plan that their team can do, or I can bring people in to help them.
Wow, very interesting. So, if you talk about your background, Kim, how do you get, expert in branding? How do you get involved? And talk about a little bit of your book as well. What's the book about and what inspired you to write this book?
So I was in the corporate world of advertising for many, many years, and I worked on global brands. I had, a big marketing team. I was a creative director. And we worked on, TD Bank. We worked on Molson Coors. I worked on Purelator. So there was some really fun stuff that we did. But in the last recession, the company I was working with, we actually lost a big account, and I found myself without a job at that point. And Gurmeet, I never actually thought that I was going to be an entrepreneur. It wasn't ever in my mindset. Wow. But during the time that I was at home and, putting my resume together and reaching out to people, I actually got a lot of time to be with my family. And that's when I realized that I wanted to do things different, and I didn't want to be out of my home and away from my family as much as I was. Because I was only seeing my kids like for a little bit in the morning and a little bit at night. It was ridiculous, but you don't even realize it until you've had an opportunity to do something different. So funny enough, I didn't really have a huge plan, except that I wanted to do something different, and I jumped in with both feet. And let me tell you, I was treading water, and it was a struggle for a while. I realized I knew some marketing, I knew branding, but I didn't know as much business as I thought. So I finally got coaching and help, and realized there's experts in that area that I needed help with.
Wow. And a lot of people, like, they can relate to you. They're going through you've gone through a previous recession. They're going through right now, as a they had a lot of time with the families during this pandemic, and they're probably thinking about the same what you gone through prior to that I spent a lot of time with the family. I never had this time with the family, and I want to continue spending time with the family. And I'm sure a lot of people, I can tell you, I was one of them. Before COVID, I was in the office very, very early. I came home very, very late. Never spent this much time with the family. And it used to be actually one of the goals in my list when I was writing my goals, that one day I'm gonna build in a business, so I'm gonna spend more time with the family.
Yes.
And that kind of came actually true during this pandemic. I had enough time with the family, right? So I'm sure a lot of people are thinking through the same thing. And I got to spend time with the family. What can I do to continue this?
Well, and I think too that you're going to see a lot of businesses or brands changing the way that they do business and being a little bit more flexible because they have seen this. And if they don't, they could be in a conundrum themselves with actually having the right people working for them. So it'll be interesting to see how they build the employer brand. And taking that into consideration. I think that a lot of people that could really use that to their benefit. Because if you have the right people working for you, a lot of times that helps to bring in the right clientele.
Very interesting. So when did you thought about writing a book, and how does that idea came along?
Oh, so writing a book, I had to be convinced. Because at first I thought, don't be ridiculous. I don't have anything to write about. And I met a publisher, and they also said that they would, we talked, and they said, you should write this book. And so I said, oh, maybe I'll write something else. And they said, no, write about your business. And I'm going, really? So it took a little bit of convincing. But yes, what I've done is in the book is really sort of laid out how a business person, especially a new business person, can start the branding process even on their own or with a small team, and make sure that they have some of these important processes in place that are really going to help them turn that asset that can be their best asset into something that works for them, and not turn it over to their competition to have them brand you for them, for you.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, whether you brand yourself or somebody else will brand it for you, right? So you pick which one you want to go. So yeah, interesting.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, business leader who looking to embark on this journey, they want to build a brand. Any word of wisdom for you want to leave for them? Where do they start? How do they go about it? Where do they find information? And how do they start if they want to just go on a journey building a brand?
If they want to start, think about what's important to you, who you are, and how you want to be perceived. So that's the one side. On the other side, make sure that you understand who your audience is. Be specific as possible and narrow down as possible. I know that's sometimes hard. And if you don't have one person, then make sure that you understand the groups of people that you're speaking to. And then start to see some of the commonalities between the groups. But really, those are the two sides of it. Who are you? Who do you want to be? And who are who's your audience? And what are their problems that you solve?
And build a story and content around it, and very interesting. Good. Yeah. Where can people find you, Kim, and where can they learn more about you, and where they can connect with you and follow up if they want to get your help on some of those items? They want to have a conversation and just have a discussion with you.
So I have a website called purplemooncreative.com. Okay. You can find me there. I'm also on social media. I'm on LinkedIn at KSpeed. I am on Twitter at Purple Moon and Kim Speed, and I am on Facebook and Instagram. So you can find me on all of those platforms.
All right. So I'm going to include all those links below the video as well, so people can click a button and connect with you. I will definitely recommend any business leader who are either thinking about going on a journey of building brand, or they're looking to rebuild a strategy, what they had a previous strategy, they want to re-look at a strategy or get a second opinion, what they're working on a brand, reach out to you, connect with you. I think you have a wealth of knowledge and a lot of years experience. We can probably speed up their process much faster and help them avoid a lot of mistakes, or show them some blind spots they're dealing with that they're probably not aware of. That I'm not expert at it. I look for experts. Sometimes you have a blind spot, you have no idea what you're looking at. So that's
Yes.
where you want to speak to experts on that. So I'll definitely recommend all the business leaders who are listening, reach out to you, connect with you, and have a word with you, and go from there.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Gurmeet. And this, as always, I enjoy talking about this. So thank you for giving me the time.
Thank you so much. I think it was very, valuable conversation. I think people who are listening, they will enjoy, and hopefully, we'll see what happens in the future, and we go from there. But we'll talk in future, sure.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kim. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye-bye.